In this video class, the last of the series, we are going to concentrate on current research in English as a foreign language, teaching and learning. This is the table of contents. We will do an introduction, then we will have a look at research approaches and the main methods that are followed. Then we will see the structure and organization of a research project, some suggestions of research areas and topics in English as a foreign language, what is being done now in current research, and the last slide will contain the references that have been mentioned in this video recording. So first of all, the introduction. Sometimes English language teachers do not see the need of acquiring research skills for their teaching practice. In this unit, we will have a look at reasons why future language teachers should learn about research methods. As Parent puts forward, the justification is clear. He says, "Our teaching practice cannot but be informed by research. When we teach, we need to navigate carefully between what our intuitions and experience tell us and what has worked for us on the one hand, and the findings from research on the other hand. We need to remember that even if things work for us, this does not mean that there aren't other ways of teaching that could work better." This is important because maybe we are happy with the way our teaching practice is going on, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't investigate if there's something better on the market. McDonough even goes further and links it to future professional development. A stronger justification from English language teachers to have a good grounding in appropriate research methods is that many candidates see research skill as an extension of their professional profile. A minority head on to doctoral research or a research-based section of the profession, and it is still usual in many institutions that a high aggregate mark on an MA assessment indicates research potential. Still more may, especially in the present climate, be hoping to be able to do some research in their own teaching context, or at least adopt a more informal research stance in their future classrooms. And this is important because maybe if you as a teacher are not considering doing a PhD, writing your thesis, you still may be interested in doing what McDonough calls informal research. Especially because teachers doing research themselves are normally teachers who are involved in innovation and change, teachers who believe in personal and professional development, enlarging their expertise and effectiveness as teachers, since they deal with teaching issues both from a theoretical and a practical point of view. This is why research should be encouraged as part of the EFL teaching profession. Let's have a look now at research approaches and methods. There are many types of language teaching research studies and also several ways in which they can be classified. However, there is a primary distinction that should be done when looking at research approaches and methods: quantitative research and qualitative research. Quantitative research consists of those studies in which the data obtained can be analyzed in terms of numbers. However, qualitative research describes events, persons, etc. in a scientific way, but without using numerical data. The table below shows a comparison of the features of quantitative and qualitative research. I am not going to read each and every of the features, but you can pause the video now and read through it so that you understand the main differences between them. A research method related to qualitative research that is often used in language teaching and learning is action research. This type takes place when the researcher has a double role. He is researcher and participant. It is appropriate when there is the need to analyze the teaching learning process and find out which aspects should be changed or improved in order to achieve better learning outcomes. It is linked to this informal research that we have mentioned before. In education, it has to be said that this distinction between quantitative and qualitative research is not that clearly done. It's not black or white. Yeah. So it's quite common to adopt what is called a mixed method approach that combines the information obtained through both approaches. For example, qualitative research may help to provide background information on context and subjects, whereas quantitative research may help to generalize the outcomes of the study. Once we have stated this distinction between the main two approaches, quantitative and qualitative, we are going to have a look at some of the most widespread types of educational research methods: the experimental method, the quasi-experimental method, ethnographic research, and case study. The first one, the experimental method, investigates possible cause-effect relationships by exposing one or more experimental groups to some treatment conditions and then comparing the results to one or more control groups that haven't received that treatment. It typically uses a control group as the baseline against which to compare the group or groups receiving that new methodology or that treatment. An example of the experimental method could be to study the comprehension of university lectures by non-English speaking students, taking a control group and an experimental group in which subjects are randomly assigned. This is important. If we want to have a true experiment, we need to assign subjects or students, people that are being observed, randomly to the experimental group and to the control group. The quasi-experimental method is similar to the previous one, but it is normally applied in education and especially in language teaching because it doesn't allow grouping for research purposes. We normally have set groups in our classes. So that means that not all the relevant variables can be controlled. And then an important step in the investigation will be to prove the internal and external validity of this design. An example of this quasi-experimental method could be the previous example, but without the random assignment of subjects, doing the experiment with fixed classes. The third type, ethnographic research, describes the events that occur within the life of a group, with particular reference to the interaction of the individuals in the context of socio-cultural norms, of rituals, beliefs that are shared by the group. The researcher normally takes place in some part of the normal life of this group and uses what he or she learns to understand the interaction between the group members. An example of ethnographic investigation could be researching the acquisition of first or second language into different communities with different socio-cultural features. The last type of research that we are going to look at today is the case study. It can refer to two very different research approaches. The first consists of an in-depth study of a particular student, classroom, or school with the aim of producing a description of the cultural setting that affects education and an account of the interactions between students and other relevant persons. An example could be the explorations of the patterns of friendship between students in a single class. A second approach to the case study research involves the application of quantitative research methods to samples, which provide results that are not necessarily designed to be generalized to wider populations. An example of this second type of case study could be a survey of the reading achievements of students in one rural region in a particular country. Now that we have seen the main research approaches and methods, we are going to look at the structure and organization of a research project. It normally consists of these parts: a title that is stated at the beginning and gives the most important information about it in a few words about the research. It should avoid repetition, redundancy, and it should attract teachers' attention. Then we normally have the abstract, which is included after the title and summarizes the research project. It is normally between 100 and 300 words, but this may vary depending on the journal where we are planning to publish the work. Then there is an introduction that gives the general background to the research project and indicates the area of study in which this fits, as well as the specific field of specialization of the topic investigated. Then it's very important to do a review of the literature, covering the previous research done that is relevant to the study. It should also indicate how that existing research is related to our own study. Then the statement of purpose. It shows the objectives of the study as well as the hypothesis or the research questions that are going to be answered in our research project. The method is very important. It is normally said that it should provide the answer to 6 main questions. Who participated in the study? Then we talk about the subjects or a corpus if we are analyzing a corpus. What types of materials were used? We talk about them, and also the research instrument. When, where, and how was the study carried out? What is called the procedures? And how was the data analyzed? Thorough data analysis. And the last section of our research project should contain the references, both bibliography and bibliography, and also if there are any appendices. Now, some research areas and topics in EFL. Research areas: pedagogy, teacher education, socio-cultural concerns, learning strategies, testing and assessment, language disability. On the right side of the table, we have included some possible topics. Again, you can pause the video and read through them at your own pace. Now, what's being currently done in EFL? One of the best and most simple ways of knowing the current trends in research related to English language teaching and learning is just having a look at the panels that are proposed by different universities and professional organizations that set up conventions and conferences. For example, TESOL and the association that is the Teachers of English to Speakers of Other Languages, which is probably the most important organization representing English language teaching, has the following panels for its conventions. Applied Linguistics, which explores language learning and communication through the application of linguistic theory to real-world contexts. Bilingual Education is another panel. Computer-Assisted Language Learning, or CALL. Young Learners, comprehending preschool and primary, secondary education, higher education, comprising universities and colleges, adult education, English for specific purposes, for example, English for science, for medicine, for business, for media. Intercultural communication, which fosters intercultural awareness, respect for our cultures, and materials development, which promotes the productions of materials in EFL in any format, printed, audiovisual, or digital materials. Having said this, one of the most prolific fields in current EFL research is the one related to CALL, computer-assisted language learning. And mainly there are 4 subfields. Virtual learning environments such as WebCT or Moodle, and they were not created specifically for language learning, and they have needed some adaptations in order to cover oral skills. So there's been a lot of research done on that field. Their constructivist pedagogical framework makes them very interesting for language teachers who want to explore the possibilities of collaborative work applied to modern languages. The latest trend related to this is the personal learning environments, which are systems that combine a desktop application with web-based services such as Dropbox, for example, or Twitter, and enable what is called learning in the cloud. This favors informal and personalized learning, which is much more in line with the constraints of modern life. There's not much time for formal education anymore. especially among adults. Computer-mediated communication is very popular as well, both in synchronous and asynchronous form. Especially research are the possibilities that social software provides, such as blogs, wikis, or social repositories, for example, Facebook. Yeah? What are the possibilities for English as a foreign language? And finally, a new field that is spreading tremendously is mobile-assisted language learning. There's a constant appearance of new gadgets, MP3, MP4, PDA, iPhone, iPad, tablet PC, smartphones, etc. And the lack of free time has motivated an increase in this non-formal education that enables language learning anywhere, anytime, almost anyhow. It's almost impossible to keep up with all the new apps on the market, from dictionaries to phrasebooks, from crash courses on EFL to various online courses of English for specific purposes. So these are the main trends nowadays. As a conclusion, we can say that in this unit we have seen that research in English as a foreign language teaching is a vast, attractive field and should not only be undertaken by teachers at universities or researchers, but by any teacher or practitioner that is interested in improving his or her teaching practice, no matter what the context or educational stage is. The final slide contains all the references.